This is a kind of a story that pulls together some really pretty significant aspects of both my life and why I consider EHED to be such an exceptional place.
My name is Rosalind Koo. I'm the founder of the 1990 Institute Springbok Project. And I started that back 10 years ago in year 2000 when I was invited by the women leaders in China to go visit the western part of the country. And I did find when I went in, girls did not go to school beyond third grade, if ever. I thought it was really very unfair. I would like to do something to adjust the balance.
In 2008, there was a devastating earthquake in Sichuan province. At the time, I knew Roz through various previous projects, and I called her immediately because I knew she was involved in a program that was helping educate girls in rural China. I called and said, how can I help? She said, I'll get back to you. We then met at a cafe two months later, and she said, I have a plan, and that was the end of that story.
But the earthquake in China in 2008 was so devastating, and I thought, I must do this. And I decided I will build my one and only building, but it has to be according to my terms, and that is it shall be a green building.
And so Roz arranged for me to go visit the site. We toured the villages, got to understand the local building techniques, the patterns of a child's day, and what was important to the local government and the local communities about the school. I came back and we started our 6-week effort to design, first and foremost, a seismically safe school that met Qian, green, sustainable principles that were really not imposing our way of doing things in the Bay Area so much as responding to the environmental and social conditions there appropriately. So we designed it in about 6 weeks, and it was built in, I say 6 months, but it was really more like 9. And we ended up using the typology of the old courtyard house, and really just using the basics of building orientation to bring as much sunlight in the wintertime. It does get cold and it's very dry, and it's exceedingly hot in the summer. And we created kind of a more formal court at the beginning. At the front of the site, you see the perimeter wall and 2 bars of classroom building. So it's super simple. So you see the form of the classrooms was pretty straightforward. And then that faces south, and then we balance the light with a clear story. On this clear story is the infrastructure for photovoltaic panels. The first priority was safety. It's a reinforced concrete frame with brick infill. Green was the second one, and then the third were these kind of elements which we were interested in layering into the building that could draw on some of the local materials. So this idea of screens that, we worked with the principles of feng shui that we had learned from various projects, and this notion that you don't let the energy kind of run through a site, but it kind of gets stopped. And I mean, all these things make a lot of sense. And when you look at a courtyard house or a courtyard school development, you see those principles at play, so there's good reason for it. We did really intensive thermal analysis to determine the U values of the walls, where the insulation should be. Ended up with the insulation on the inside. Typically, they put it on the outside. And if this summer's experience was any example, the classrooms were probably 20 degrees cooler than the temperature outside. This little rendering describes all the components of the insulation in the wall, insulating silk curtains. The heat comes in, children are going to warm up the room, and at night you close them to capture the heat. And so they're very kind of passive techniques. They use these corn husks as insulation. And I thought to myself as I wandered around, there are some basic things we can add to a school building here, both in terms of safety, and one of Roz's big mandates was that this be a green school, to kind of be a new model for rural development in China. And I looked at how they were living in a green way and asked questions like, well, what do you do with trash and recycling? And they said, well, what's trash and what's recycling? Because everything just gets reused. There's a kind of basic way they have to live sustainably, and we have a lot to learn from them.
I think poverty is something can be cured only through education. What I hope your school will be the prototype. And no need for them to reinvent or try to make something that's not real.
The Qian School is kind of the part of a series of projects. It's the biggest and the most, I think, impactful, arguably. But it's a series of projects that have launched our commitment to a pro bono program, and we have signed up for Public Architecture's 1% solution, which encourages architects to contribute 1% of their time or their revenue to a pro bono cause. And we started this as an informal recognition of EHED's 60th anniversary. And instead of having a big party, we said, well, we'll invest that money into causes. And Qian is kind of the kind of sweeping wave of that.